So I'm in a leotard, standing there as Princess Diana comes down there, and she literally turned around to me and went, "Oh, it's God."
Hello and welcome to The Fan Show. To celebrate National Poetry Day and the release of Doctor Who's first poetry book, Now We Are 600, we've brought along author and novelist James Goss and up-and-coming illustrator Russell T Davies to tell us more.
Hello.
Hello.
And you're going to do some drawings for us today as well.
Lots of us and lots of kids are like this at home. If I'm sitting at a desk and there's a meeting going on, I'll sit there and I'll draw a TARDIS like this. It's just the instinctive thing that I draw. Do you do that? Does everyone do that?
Do you think that's one of the reasons why the Daleks are so successful? Just because they are a thing you can draw.
I think that's very
Anyone
true.
can draw.
Kids draw it and draw it and draw it.
It is a simple shape, but it's also a slightly complicated shape.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's like you can have a crack at it if you're 3,
Yeah.
and then as you get more and more
There's
complicated.
different levels of detail, really, isn't there?
I love Peter Capaldi's Daleks. I think he just draws them so ingeniously. There's a Dalek.
You've always been keen on drawing and graphic design.
My very first job was in BBC Graphics, illustrating little kids' stories for BBC Wales. A person would sit on camera and tell a story, and I do the paintings, full colour paintings for that. And then writing just gradually took over, but I loved it. I still love it.
So how did all of this come about?
It was an idea from the editor at BBC Books, Albert de Petrillo, who just rang up and said, "I'd like you to write a book of poetry."
Albert de Petrillo sounds like a cop, doesn't he?
I
Cagney
know.
and Lacey. De Petrillo investigates.
He needs
as
a
a series of
partner.
books with drawings.
It needs to be de Petrillo and...
Petrillo and Goss?
No.
Anyway.
Now We Are 600 riffs off Now We Are 6, which is the 1927 poetry book by A.A. Milne.
I found the copies of the books that I still have on my shelf from when I was a toddler. I used to nibble at the ends of books, so there are all my little childhood teeth marks.
I'm going, James, wondering what to do, you see? You come quite handsome there.
I know. I look sort of like Tintin.
Everyone does when they're reduced to a few lines.
It was a case of picking up some of A.A. Milne's source poems and then translating them from these really sweet, cute nursery rhymes into things which are dark and terrible and horrible.
One of the things that really stands out in this book is how many times you've had to rhyme monster names and planets and just weird words.
I was really pleased. I managed to fit a rhyme in with Syzygy.
What did you rhyme with Syzygy?
Holy Lord, I
I
can't.
can't. I wasn't meant to ask, was I? Well, we discovered last night, live in foils, that you hadn't read the printed version. There was a poem that lists all the Doctor's companions and leaves out Wilf. I drew Wilf.
The
Christel.
drawing of
I
Wilf
drew
is
Wilf
so
and they cut
lovely
the
as
drawing.
well.
Yes, lovely.
Because he's got his little Santa hat on and everything.
Antlers.
Turns out Syzygy rhymes with singularity. And I've rhymed the Doctor's ego with reverse polarity of neutron flow.
You've drawn Wilf there.
That's kind
That's
of like
fantastic. It's
an
so-
old goat. I'll write the word Wilf.
It's sort of
underneath.
Camden Market Wilf.
It is.
Well, yeah,
running
he's-
one of those shops that sells wafty
He's grown
things.
out quite a
We
beard.
first found him on a newspaper store.
Russell, you must have been delighted to be offered this.
Weirdly, genuinely, it came out of the blue at a time when I was literally thinking in life, I must draw more. That week, I'd gone out and bought stuff. It was like Albert de Petrillo, as well as being a cop, is a great mind reader. This email arrived and I was like, well, that's like destiny. That's meant to be. And I knew James's work and I knew it would be brilliant.
Because it's Doctor Who, you're not allowed to talk about it. Even if you're making Doctor Who napkins, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I would be at dinner parties where people would just sit there, just steadily, slowly carving chicken, just going, well, that's interesting.
I've been to a dinner party for like 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me. You're
Can't
Russell T Davies.
Bear them. I don't have dinner with people. I go out to a restaurant or something. It's like, what's that? Maybe all my friends just don't invite me.
Did you send poems to Russell and then Russell, you draw something around them?
I had like a batch of 50 to begin with. It was like, I thought they might come one by one. Bang! If only heavy emails could go bang. They should have made a bit of software that makes them go boom, like your computer go like that.
And I didn't realise how long it would take.
Imagine having to draw them all. Well, buy the book. Please buy the book and you will see every single command except Wilf. As a fan, I loved it. I said, you sit there thinking, right, I've got to draw Vicky now. I love Doctor Who. I've watched all her episodes. I've never actually sat and thought about Vicky for an hour in my life. You look up all her costumes, and I had to sort of think, what's the most iconic, that word that everyone uses now? They use iconic to mean left or right, don't they? So turn iconic, like that. Everyone just says iconic for everything. Do you want a cup of iconic? So I had to sit there choosing which one is most Vicky-like. I think she's just got that wide collar like that. So you see Doctor Who in very new ways when you have to draw. Until you have to sit there drawing 50 years of costumes. And you realise how brilliant they are, actually, and how you can sum up how distinctive they are and iconic. True use of the word iconic. They are summed up by this. Barbara had that kind of collar in the 60s, those big white collars, and then you go through, the Tegan suddenly in her air hostess outfit. I loved it. I really appreciated all that more than I ever had.
Is illustrating much different from writing?
It's as disappointing as writing is. Writing is a constant series of disappointment because you have an idea and then you have to nail it down into words and sentences and paragraphs and budgets, and it's never quite as brilliant as that weird little ephemeral idea. And actually, there's something about this. There's something that I love about that illustration. That's really rough and lovely. And I'm not drawing at the right angle here. If we do it at home, I'd do a really nice sort of rough Vicky. And then when you do it properly, you kind of have to fill in all the gaps and all the lines, and you have to make sure all that black is filled in like that. And it kind of dies slightly. So it's similar to writing like that. It's intensely miserable, constantly disappointing, and always anticlimactic and a big letdown in the end.
There's a poem called The Death List, and you've drawn quite a feminine figure at the time, the upcoming Doctor 13. Did you have a hunch?
Yes, I drew in that poem. There's a
doctor?
mysterious doctor wearing a mask. Well, I gave her high heels as well. I kind of knew what was in the air with future doctors to come, and I actually emailed you saying if you just change one word, then you can avoid giving away the sex of the Doctor in this poem, which you happily did.
And also, I think since we're on the fan show, we should mention that there's a poem featuring Missy, drawn Missy holding a baby, and when we spoke to Stephen on the after show, he was talking about some email exchanges between you two.
We concocted this whole scheme that I'd cliffhanger out of my year out on Doctor Who, handing over to Chris with Missy telling the Master and the Doctor that she's pregnant.
I'd forgotten I had that conversation with. I must have done the drawing long after I'd spoken to Stephen, so I just forgotten I'd done it. But yeah.
There is also a poem where you've changed some events.
Yes.
Where, spoiler alert, Harriet Jones gets away on a motorbike.
It's not such a spoiler alert since they printed it in Doctor Who.
It's true.
I wasn't there when they shot the final scenes of Penelope Wilton as Harriet Jones in the Stolen Earth fans. But Phil was on set, and as she was being shot by the Daleks, he stood there going, "She's not dead." A trapdoor opens up beneath her, and she jumps down onto a motorcycle and speeds away. And so I've finally drawn that. That was way too complicated a drawing to do here. There's a lot of movement in that one, trapdoors and things. It's a BBC book, that makes it canonical.
Yep.
She is alive.
You've dabbled with poetry.
Now, funny you should ask. I last wrote a poem when I was 18 years old. And this poem was for and was presented to, and I was there, Princess Diana, on her inaugural tour of Wales in 1981. They put on a show in Swansea. Marvellous show. It's a youth theatre. West Glamorgan had brilliant youth arts, youth dance, youth band, youth orchestra. So they needed some poetry for the second half, linking it all together. So I wrote a poem. And at this point, I have to say, I'm standing there. But the actual truth of this is, there I am standing there, and I was young and slim and beautiful in a leotard. In the show, I was playing God. It was a production of Ralph Vaughan Williams' Job. So I'm in a leotard standing there as Princess Diana comes down there, and she literally turned around to me and went, "Oh, it's God." We were told not to shake hands with them. Don't shake hands, whatever you do. So I waved and I went, "Hello." I actually waved in her face. And my goodness, she's tall. In heels, she was my height, which is very rare. I've never met a woman that tall before. Hello, or before or since. We did a little curtain call at the end of that. So I put my glasses on. I didn't have glasses on as God. So I went in the curtain call in my leotard and glasses like this, so I could see Princess Diana in case. And she went, "I saw you put your glasses on for the curtain call." I went, "So I could see you." We were like this. We were like intimate.
Oh.
And then the man showing her around said, "Russell has written the poetry in the second half to link all the items together." And she went, "Oh, that's very good." And I went, "You haven't seen it yet?" That was rude to Princess. I waved in her face. And she said, "What are you going to do later on in life?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't made my mind up yet." And she went, "Dance, dance, dance." That was my career advice from Princess Diana, to be a dancer. One day I'll go back to this. I've gone back to drawing. One day the dance will come back. Beat that for a poetry story, James Goss.
No one can beat that.
Do you have a favourite illustration of Russell's?
Two. One, the drawing of all the companions, because I feel so guilty about it. Two, the drawing of Verity Lambert at the end.
Yes, that's a beautiful
that's
poem.
Nice. That's the Doctor Who Adventures Dalek. I just drew that. It's one of my favourite things in the world. And I literally draw that to myself every so often because it's hilarious.
It felt like a nice way to end things. And two, I've just always been fascinated by Verity Lambert, and there is a real story. One of the original directors of Doctor Who, Richard Martin, explained that Verity Lambert, every time she walked into the BBC in the morning, was glared at by everyone because she'd taken this tiny little programme that wasn't supposed to be a success, and she'd made it the biggest thing on television. And all these people who thought they knew how television was made hated her and would glare at her every day. Richard Martin said, well, Verity dear, how do you manage it? And she goes, oh, I just buy a new hat every day and I assume that they're looking at that. You know, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because apart from anything else, she's saying, I'm so successful, I can afford a new hat every day.
It makes Verity Lambert the ultimate hero of Doctor Who. And also all these poems are kind of set in the fictional world of Doctor Who, and right at the end of the very last page, James breaks out and says this was a real person who really made the show, who was a goddess.
Have you ever been tempted to draw and do some illustrations?
Come on.
So maybe we'll have
No,
a go.
because,
Come on. Draw the Taran Wood Beast. That's, big drawing, big. A lot of.
I'm making up for the lack of skill with the amount of paint.
You know what I do at Christmas? I sit down, my boyfriend can't draw at all, and we sit down and we draw Christmas cards to people. And it's the funniest day of the year. I literally say, draw a turkey now. And if you ask someone, I now draw Jesus in the cradle, now draw a camel, and we laugh for the rest of the year. Yeah. Actually, it's like, it is the day he drew a turkey and forgot to put wings on it. So it's just like a lump. It was just like a thing of flesh. We have coloured pens and everything. It's like, I recommend people do it at Christmas. It's both a bonding experience and truly the funniest cards you will ever have. Do you know? It's no. Oh, what it's lacking? Do you know what it's lacking? Because the Taran Wood Beast had face was set within.
Oh yes.
That's, you see.
Yep.
There we go.
I've always got notes.
Thanks for that.
There you go.
I've got notes on drawings.
That's now 11 out of 10.
I've become that.
There
person.
we go.
There's a few I crossed out. Do you remember there was a very bad Ian that I crossed out, and Harry went wrong, didn't he? Harry was surprisingly.
I think there's a Patrick Troughton you like.
Oh, I'm
like
still not very happy. Patrick Troughton looks like Mia Farrow. It's properly hard to do, and then he's kind of joyous as well. So he's always dancing about on beaches and waving his hands. It's and then those big baggy trousers, those check trousers. That's brilliant. That's better than the one in the book. That's Patrick Troughton. Actually, that's now Patrick Troughton. That's it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's
There
it.
we
That's
go.
right.
Got
That's what I
there.
mean about the costumes. It's like you're sitting there, and sometimes it's a button, or it's Tegan's little hat or something, or Nissa's little tiara, and you go, oh, that's it. Got them, and you add that hat to them. That is better than the one in the book. I think that's why kids love drawing it. And there is something about Doctor Who. It's like, it's you could be terrible at Daleks, but they are quite hard to draw. But if you draw that eyepiece, people have got it. It's like that's only a Dalek. There's something about reducing them to those simple lines that works.
James, you're rather good at reading poetry. I think you're going to have to give us an example from the book.
Or I could draw another Taran Wood Beast.
Please read. Please.
This is a poem about all the Doctors, which Russell is going to draw all of the Doctors by the time I've finished reading this quite short poem. Full stop. When I was 1, I was not much fun. When I was 2, I was barely through. When I was 3, I liked strong tea. When I was 4, I hated a bore. When I was 5, I was so alive. When I was 6, I somehow could never quite fit into what was expected of me. Well, not exactly, but that was because things weren't neat. And there are no easy rhymes in the universe. And scansion, my dear Perry, is a thing that's really overrated. And you only have to look at a sunset to realise that creation itself is a poem. And, oh, no, wait, fix rhymes. That's what the line needed. Or tricks, that works too. When I was 7, I sent gods to heaven. When I was 8, kissing was great. When I was 9, I fought time. When I was 10, I began again. When I was 11, I totally got even. When I was 12, I became as clever. And now I think I'll be 12 forever and ever. Well, unless, of course, there is a terrible catastrophe involving explosions, Cybermen, radiation, or heights. And then I guess we'll find out what comes next. But I tell you this, the eyebrows won't be as good.
Brilliant.
Oh, you managed it!
You've drawn David.
A certain doctor of my knowledge.
Oh.
Hooray. It's nice, isn't it? Quite pleased with that one.
Well, thank you so much both for coming on the show. Thank you for your wonderful drawings, Russell. Thank you for that amazing poetry performance. Now We Are 600 is out now. There's links in the description. To see Peter Capaldi doing some drawing as well, click here. And to subscribe to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel, click here. We'll see you soon. Bye.